Today is day 257, a life of upgrades. So I enjoyed my first major upgrade sometime in 1987. I had a functioning Intel 8286 clone PC that could barely run MS-DOS. I really did not use this PC much. I believe my uncle gave it to me. However, I was finally in for my first upgrade in the early 90s. We got a 386 motherboard with a 46 socket type that supported the Visa Local bus. I still have the motherboard in my garage. It had an AMI BIOS, and I'm AMI Megatrends BIOS, and I'm unable to tell who the board manufacturer was. However, the upgrade I remember the most. So that was my first big upgrade. But the one that I remember the most was in 1991. This was a AMD 386 DX processor, not the SX. Although the Intel 46 was out and probably much better, for someone on my budget, or my parents' budget, I should say, the DX offered quite a bit of power. What made this motherboard and chipset amazing is that it supported a 32-bit external data bus. For the first time in my life, we were talking about theoretical maximums of memory capacity in the gigabit range. This was, of course, theoretical only. My new AMD 386 DX was awesome. I could now run Windows 3.0, and I was very happy to have a sound card, a CD-ROM, and even a portable handheld scanner that I could scan stuff in. My new 40 megahertz processor was amazing, and this was probably the first year that I'd actually remembered using a PC for any functional purpose other than a game or two. I would soon be adding a modem to this PC at about 1992 or maybe 1993. And I was introduced to the idea of dialing up to digital board systems. Of course, shortly thereafter, we'd be dialing up to internet systems as well, or what we would call the internet. This PC in all of its glory could run Windows 3.0 in enhanced mode. Barely. I think I had about a total of 1 megabyte of RAM. And I think my uncle had come through once again and gave me a few chips that I installed on that motherboard to get me to 1 mega RAM. So circa 1991, I had the latest from AMD and 1 meg of RAM. Later, I would put in that modem with a dial-up speed of around 14,400 bits per second. I have no idea how my parents could afford that modem. Looking back historically, those things were around $250, which was a lot of money back then. Fast forward to this weekend, just this weekend in 2024, I upgraded the memory in my PC to 64 gigabytes of RAM, basically two 32 gig DIMM chips that each had a clock speed of around 3,200 megahertz. That upgrade was cheaper than the modem that we bought in 1992. It cost me less than $125 to make that upgrade. Add on top of that, I had recently upgraded my home network here at the house to 2.5 gigabits so that I could fully utilize my 2.5 gigabit fiber internet connection. So in my lifetime, I've gone from a 14.4 baud to 2.5 gigabit fiber connection. Just looking at plain numbers, my memory usage in my computing environment has increased 6.4 million% in the 33 years since my first major computing upgrade. I'm not counting virtual machines or cloud resources that I'm using. The rate of year-over-year increase has been roughly 50% every year as my memory increased. My internet connection has been growing much faster. Almost 1.3 billion% since 1991, at about approximately 63% per year. My life has been a continuous stream of upgrades. I'm staring at my NAS I have over here, which is on a shelf above my computer. If I take that NAS shelf and my Dropbox and my Google account and all of the other cloud storage and put them together, I'm wondering just how exponential storage has been. I think my hard drive in 1991 was less than 40 megabytes. So this is a similar exponential growth. It just as similar as memory and network bandwidth. So my life since 1991 when I was just out of high school. My life has been a series of technology upgrades. This has got me to really ponder, however, if I've upgraded much personally since 1991. With hard drives, memory, and network bandwidth, I have a real measurable thing to look at. However, with myself, not so much. How do you judge this? This is an interesting question indeed. I have one more wife and 3 more children than I had in 1991. I have 2 degrees that I did not have in 1991. I own 1 more home than I did then. I have a few more social media followers, only because there was no social media in 1991. By any of those measures, I'm doing pretty well. However, if you look at how would you look at your rate of improvement in life? I certainly do not want to look at the scale. Pretty hard to compete with my 165-pound weight when in my late teens. My bank account, not that much of improvement. Investments, maybe a little. The penny jar? No, probably not. My VO2 max seems to be going down every year as I get older, so that's not a good thing to judge by. How about my number of friendships? Well, I have one really good friend, and that was the same friend I had back then, so I'm not doing so well there either. So how do you track a life of upgrades? How do you know that you are better off? I can tell you this for certain. You are not going to find it in megahertz, terabytes, or bits per second. As you improve yourself, you're going to have to find it in less tangible ways. Your personal growth will not be found on a label, a package, or even a QR code. Your life of upgrades will actually be measured by the only perspective that will count at the end of it all, and that is yours. The sum of all life will be narrowed down to the quiet moments that you have by yourself at the end of it all. Are you satisfied with your life? Does the enjoyment outweigh the regrets? I will leave this article with a poem that has been in my grandfather's house for several decades now. Seems to wrap up what he wanted to be judged by, and maybe this is just as good as any. It's called The Fisherman's Prayer. I pray that I may live to fish until my dying day, and when it comes to my last cast, I then most humbly pray, when in the Lord's great landing net and peacefully asleep, that in his mercy I be judged big enough to keep. Thank you.